Just gonna make sure audio is working. It is, okay. Posting in Discord. Okay. We have OBS open, and I'll go like that. Okay, so we are going to be taking a look at the PlayStation Classic again today, and trying to get. This is not the right board. Trying to get the internal storage upgraded again. So last time, where we left it was, I have the board here. There is a power chip, power management unit chip here. It basically handles taking the 5 volts from the USB, micro USB port and converts it to 1.8 and 3.3 volts for the CPU and all the other components on the board. So we need to basically take that off because it's not soldered on properly. And then I have a stencil, so we're going to reball it, and then we are going to replace it and resolder it. So I'm going to switch over to the microscope, and we can take it from there. So I'm going to show you how this is soldered real quick. Hopefully my microscope doesn't cut out like it has been, but it looks like that this cable is not very good, so it might be a work in progress type of thing. So this is the chip as it's soldered right now. It's obviously crooked, and if I take this microscope and push it to the edge of the table, I'll show you what a good solder on BGA looks like versus a bad one. So you can see the RAM there. You can see, oh, there we go. The balls and how they go from the chip and then onto the board. You need to kind of separate the chip from the board. This is what we did last time. This is the eMMC storage chip on PlayStation Classic. This is a 32 gig version. So this is a new chip that I have put on, and I have flashed with the backup that I made. Now you can see that this doesn't really have a gap between the chip and the board, so it's a little harder to, or it's not making contact properly. So we have to take that off, reball it, and then put it back on. Which is a process, but I actually have the proper solder stencil in now, so we should be able to take care of that. I'm going to be checking chat intermittently, so if your question doesn't get answered, it might just take a couple minutes. Right. So we'll put the board on the microscope like that. Basically, what we're going to do at first is just take off this chip. So we're going to take some flux here. Take a lot of it and just put it like that. I'm going to make sure I have my tweezers with me. Right there, perfect. And we're going to heat this up to, what do I have it set at? 395 degrees Fahrenheit, which should be enough to get this chip off. So we're going to melt all this flux, and it's going to kind of seep underneath the board, and we're going to try to take this off without bumping out any of the other components. Should be able to do it. Sometimes I get a little shaky, so. So I have a feeling that the storage chip is on there probably pretty damn good. So I think it's a matter of getting this chip back on. Last stream, I uh, put the chip on, the storage chip, and then plugged in power, and it wasn't like getting the orange light like you normally would get with a PlayStation Classic. And I was like, well, why the hell is that happening? And for some reason on this board, I had taken off this chip, the PMU, and it's kind of hard to power up a system when it's not getting any voltage to the CPU. So that would be an explanation. This is going to take a while to heat up. So if this doesn't work, I'm not really sure what else I can do with this system. Other than somehow manually connect with wires to like a microUSD card or something like that and try that method, but that is a real pain in the butt because of how small these pins are. The BGA package is it's a 0.5 millimeter pitch, which means that between the center of the balls and the underside of these chips they're only 0.5 millimeters apart, which is pretty tiny. So soldering manually is possible, and I've done it. It's just a little bit harder than anything else you'll really see. This is taking a long time to heat up. There we go. So we're going to have to take this chip off. We're going to have to clean it, and we're going to have to clean the board here. So I'm just going to clean this right away. If I can find my solder wick, which I put somewhere and have subsequently lost. There it is. Zoom in a little bit and focus this. Actually, what I'm gonna try to do this in a different way, because this is always kind of the hardest part, because it gets really hot and I end up dragging some of the other components around. So I'm gonna try to just cut off a little strip of this solder wick and try to hold it there with some tweezers and see if that helps. This is really not that much solder on here, so hopefully this will be doable. Shoot. Okay, that seems to be pretty good. Okay, so I'm gonna give it just a little bit of heat farther away so it doesn't cool down too fast. And then we can go and clean up that burnt flux. How's it going, Blaze? Welcome to the stream as always. I'm gonna have to let this cool down, otherwise it's just gonna evaporate the alcohol when I apply it. So yeah, this is only a 32 gig chip. They make other size chips out there in actual physical different sizes and also storage sizes. eMMC chips are actually not terribly easy to find. I am thinking though, if this is replaceable with an eMMC chip, I might be able to make either an adapter that would kind of work like a BGA chip, and then could adapt it to like the pin connections of Nintendo Switch modules, because those use eMMC chips too. Or I could try soldering a microUSD card to it and see if we could get some expanded storage off of that, because that could bring us up to possibly 2 terabytes of storage, which should be nice. I am not watching the Super Bowl today, believe it or not. I just, I'm a Packers fan, and just because I'm from Wisconsin, and didn't think that they were going to get into the Super Bowl this year, so like that's not really the issue. It's just I'd rather be doing stuff like this at this time, and I've spent so much time watching football this year that don't really feel like watching more of it. And Chiefs versus Niners doesn't really interest me. So ugh, what is that? Yuck. I need to get. Oh, do I have a toothbrush around here? I think I do. I had one at one point specifically for this type of work. Toothbrush. I don't see it. Oh well. Yay, Chrome notifications. Yeah, I really need to, like, I really want an ultrasonic cleaner, because you can take a board like this and just stick it in and it gets rid of all this flux in all these little places. Makes it much easier. Okay, so that's pretty clean. We are going to do the chip next. which is currently cemented to my stand for some reason. There we go. So we actually have to reball this chip, which is always kind of a pain. Ooh. Actually, I'm not sure if we can reball it. Let's take a look at this one. We're going to take this one off of this other donor board that I have. Because the one that I just took off looks like it was missing some pins. I just love breathing these flux fumes. Yeah, okay. Ugh, I just regret doing that now. It's pretty gross. Okay, so we have to take off all the solder, which is going to require flux, of course. Probably freehand. Turn on my soldering iron. No. I'm not replacing this with a 2 terabyte. I think it might be possible, if this works, that we could replace it with a microSD card slot or something of the sort and possibly get 2 terabytes out of it. But this is all just experimentation. Like, I wouldn't recommend doing this. Unless you really wanted internal storage, I would just recommend staying with either doing like an internal USB hub mod, or just using a flash drive or like OTG or something like this, because this is not really easily done. And I'm sure other people do a better job at replacing eMMC than I do, and they don't have like microscopes and all that. But I couldn't see myself doing it without this stuff, and it's pretty difficult. I mean, what's something that's standard size. Yeah, so like this is a USB flash drive, so this is half the size exactly. So like this isn't an eMMC chip, but like it's the same pitch, so you'd have to solder like really small, tiny connections. So unless they make an eMMC module, it's really big. I don't generally see why somebody would do something like this. Okay, so my iron is probably heated up by now. See, this is the type of stuff where it might be easier to just use the hot air. Ah, ah, ah. More flux. Let's see. Oh, I got the jitters. There we go. The problem is I can't really hold this chip down with one hand, have hot air doing the other one, and then have a third hand like using the desoldering braid, so it's a little tricky. I do have like a little vise somewhere, but it's not really made for doing this type of thing. So now I'm stuck. See, now I just don't know. I think I just lifted a pad there. Yeah, I did. So this is not usable now. Yeah, this stuff isn't easy. It's not easy in the slightest. Unless these are the exact same pins that are on the other one. I guess I can put them side by side, but I could check the data sheet on them too and see if they're needed. Yeah, so if you can see, it's this pin and this pin. Yeah, I've definitely been lifting up stuff on this, so I'm not sure that this is going to be a viable replacement now. I might have to try to source one of these chips pre-balled or something. Um, and try this at a different time. Otherwise, I'm just gonna try to reball it tonight and then, or today rather, and just try it. But these two pads here are definitely lifted up. I'm gonna try to look up this chip real quick and see if I can get a data sheet on it. Where is my? There I go. MT6392A. MT639. Data sheet, data sheet, data sheet. Problem is that these things are pretty hard to find sometimes. I can get them for $16 off of AliExpress. Here, I guess I could actually show my desktop, huh? So This is the only place that has it. Yeah. Because these PMUs usually pair with the CPU. At least definitely the one on the PlayStation Classic does. What are our shipping options here? 2 to 5 days for $20 shipping, or ePacket, which is going to be a couple weeks. Oh, that's not the AliExpress. United States ePacket. $225. That's not. That's not terrible. Well, I'll try putting this one on. If it doesn't work, wonder if I can switch off my camera, desktop for that, and then drink little. Sure, I'll say 10. Okay. So let's see if this Jotrin company can get me some, but otherwise we're looking at doing a reball today and then possibly paying over $20 for one chip. Or I could get a new PlayStation Classic for $20. That is always an option. Not a great option, but it's an option. So, anyway, enough about the crappy stuff. Let's hope that those are just ground pads, and then there's many other ground pads, or maybe those are not connected pads or something. We're going to be positive today. And there's some residue left over and all that crap. But we're going to go ahead. Because I already bought this $20 stencil to reball this stuff, so I might as well use it. Probably should have just bought the chip instead, but that would be too logical in our scenario. So, this is what the stencil looks like. Is it actually perfect for this chip? The same exact number of pins? Oh no, there's about one more row. So we're just going to go like this, and go like this. Make sure this matches up properly. Like that. Yeah, there's one more row on each side. So that's kind of neat. So I'm going to tape the chip to the back of this, so I'm going to have to take this off this board and just kind of line it up with my eyes, which isn't really all that fun, but you do what you gotta do. What's that? That looks like it's kind of off. Yeah. That's pretty good. I'll just go like this. And that's good enough in my opinion. Just want to make sure that there's not a lot of gap between chip. We'll tape down this so it doesn't move. And like that. And we will just tape it down. There. And one more on the other side. Like that. Okay, and we are going to want to use, what size solder balls did we use last time? 0.25 millimeter. Yeah, that's about right. So now comes the fun part, where we get to sit and watch me try to finagle these things in. And I'm not very good at it, so this will be a journey for all of us. Yeah, this stencil's a little bit off, but wow, that one's on a hair. Look at that. I should probably clean off this. I need a second pair of tweezers that I can't find at the moment. God, why are there so many hairs on these things? That's a bit better. Question is, are these too big for these holes? I'm going to say no. It's probably more of a yes, but I'm going to say no. There we go. So yeah, this is what we have to do when these chips are not readily available to people. Um, I know that right to repair is like a big uh, popular issue now, especially the past couple days because Louis Rossmann has been going around to various state governments to testify in right to repair bills, which I think he's doing a fantastic job at. Um, but this is really kind of the reason why we need right to repair, because in order to, obviously I'm trying to hack the system and do something that's, okay, that is a proper. I'm trying to hack the system and everything like that um, to add more storage. Um, but, you know, I could just go out and I could buy a new PlayStation Classic. And that has a proper intact PMU and everything like that. I could also pay the $16 for the chip that some Chinese manufacturers decide to sell, probably not sanctioned by MediaTek or anything like that. Um, but those aren't really like great solutions because I don't necessarily want to give money to somebody who is doing dealings under the table, but I also kind of need the part. Um, and again, like I could go out and sacrifice another PlayStation Classic, and that would be my um, fifth or sixth at this point. But uh, I feel like that's a little wasteful to just keep one for my money, but two for the environment, especially because it's not just like I can go and buy these circuit boards anywhere. I have to buy the whole system, which means all the packaging, which means all the controllers. I have at least I have at least 8 to 10 PlayStation Classic controllers that I have no use for, really. I mean, 4, yeah, maybe. I could see using 4 possibly sometime. 2, definitely. Heat, no. No, 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 no. So instead of just being able to buy this PMU directly from MediaTek, have it readily accessible, I either have to go and find somebody who's doing dealings under the table, or I have to talk to MediaTek directly, which I guarantee you they will never, ever, ever give me that chip. And then there's also things like the datasheet isn't readily accessible. So how can I know if this chip that I'm working on right now is actually even really good if those pads are missing? Because we're missing one here and we're missing one here. I have no idea that this chip is even going to work. So, I guess my ramble is support right to repair. It really is just going to make all our lives easier, and it's actually the more environmentally viable thing to do. They say reuse, recycle, or reduce, reuse, recycle. Um, Repair is part of that reuse uh, phrase, or is the reuse part of that phrase in a lot of ways. God, these tweezers suck. I don't think these are any better, but no, they're not. Okay, that's a pad. That's a pad. Oh, shit. I just spilled half of these balls out of this little vial that I have. That's fun. It is amazing how good you get at this, and how kind of therapeutic. I mean, it's entirely frustrating, but it's like a tiny little microscopic puzzle. And it's very simple. You just got to get these balls in these holes, and you can make all your jokes you want about that. That's kind of neat. Oh, that one's nasty. Hold on. Chat break. Anybody say anything? Nope. Okay. Is anybody watching? Ooh, 3 people are watching. There we go. I'm probably one of them too, so. Yippee for me. Okay, we're about halfway done. No, it's not terribly exciting, but. Oh, you little. Get back here. Going somewhere, please. You just fell off. Great. Stay there. Oh, man. My arms are getting shaky because it's kind of hard to keep them this still for long periods of time. I don't really want to just go for the shotgun approach with this, because there are spots in here that don't get solder balls. I don't want to like clog anything up. Almost done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 left. Oh, almost. Let's do. I wish in YouTube you could set like, as you're doing a stream, you could set points. like points of interest or something in the timeline. So like when people watch it afterwards, you could like, oh, click here to go to after all the solder balls are done, or just like have a table of contents or something. I feel like that'd be a nice feature to have. Because I know people aren't going to watch this entire thing. I wouldn't want anybody to watch this entire thing. I don't even want to do this entire thing. One ball left. One ball. And there we go. Okay, so we got our 2 points here that are not filled because this point here and this point here because I was stupid and lifted the traces off the board. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hot air, I'm going to turn it to a pretty low blower setting so I'm not pushing balls out of the socket, and then I'm just going to melt these onto the chip. I didn't put any flux down, but hopefully that will be okay. This thing is lifting up. Shit. Pardon my French. Oh, that one came back into socket. Okay. There's my focus. There it is. Yeah, that one came back. One in the top right kind of popped out. One right there popped out. Okay. I'm going to let that cool down, and then I'm going to take the stencil off, and I'm going to see what the damage is. What ended up happening was, I can't really zoom out all that far, but there's these stupid mats, these silicone mats bubble up. I really need to get like a metal plate or a ceramic plate or something like that to do this on, because this is stupid. There's a bubble that gets created underneath these silicone mats because the air underneath them expands. I really hate it. So I don't know if this worked properly, but nope. They got some of them, not nearly enough of all of them. So this is reballing fail number 2. Which is a shame. Probably no flux was this one. The problem is with flux is that it likes to boil up and push up the solder stencil. You can see all those there that are still there in that socket. They're not sticking to the socket, so it's just, or into the stencil. So either the balls were too big or weren't lined properly and then just didn't flow onto the board. You can see that's a little bit more indicative of what exactly happened. And these look like they shifted after I moved I took the stencil off, so maybe it wasn't hot all the way, but these aren't really soldered on there. At least some of them aren't. Like this one's probably just gonna, yeah. So, oh, look at that. So maybe these weren't actually just lifted and they're just dirty from flux. Is that possible? Does this go any further in? Because you see, like here, no idea if a razor blade could get in there, but is that solderable? This is absolutely the wrong tip for this. But um, uh, oh, oh, yeah, I think that's a actual solderable pad, but I'm not gonna mess with this anymore. Um, I am probably going to order another PlayStation Classic if I can find it somewhere for $20. It's 37 on eBay, renewed for 29. I'm sure I could find on Slick Deals or something. I could find one. B&H Photo had one. Also check eBay. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna buy one for $23 with $14 shipping eBay. That's stupid. Yeah, so I'm gonna find one online, and then I'll just buy another one and try again. I'm gonna take off the eMMC and then solder it again and with a new one because I think, yeah, I have two chips left, two 32 gig chips left that have the solder balls on them. That's probably going to be the easiest bet is just to get another system, tear it apart, try it again, and then if that doesn't work, um, I'm basically going to call it at that point because my reballing skills are not very good, and I'm wasting way too many resources and time on this specific project. Um, and the gain afterwards is not really more than just saying, hey, this actually does work. So that's all I'm going to do today. Um, so basically, we tried to reball the power management unit on the PlayStation Classic, which was missing due to a previous attempt. So this video was kind of pointless. Um, so the PMU controls the 5 volts and converts it down to uh, 1.8 and 3.3 volts for different components on the board. especially like the CPU has to have. That's or like when you do overvoltage and stuff. Basically, what happens is your script or whatever your operating system talks to the CPU. The CPU talks to the PMU to decide how much voltage comes out of that. So, if you crank it from 1.8 to 1.85 on the core, the PMU is the type of thing that controls that. So there's actually communication between the CPU and the chip. I believe it's over some type of USB or something like that. Uh, yeah, we're gonna have to take another crack at this. I'm gonna get a system online. I'm gonna try to find one for like 20 bucks. If you know any deals, send them my way. Um, I guess I can put my uh, Echo 10 um, Discord in the description. So if you know of any deals, let me know, and I'll keep an eye out for them too. But um, yeah, thanks for watching, and have a great night. And I'm sure people are watching the Super Bowl, so I hope insert team here won. Thanks. Bye.